and welcome to the Big Seven Stories on Wells Television. I am Bolanle Udueku Ayola. Now, every week I bring you 7 stories that everyone has been talking about all through the week. From the news that shapes our nations, sparks conversations, and moves the world. We take breaking headlines, unfolding developments. Just know that if the stories have made the waves over the week, it's right here on the Big 7 Stories. Before we dive into this week's Big 7 Stories, kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yes, it's a new year and many of you are watching our videos, but you still aren't subscribed. Please, please, and please help subscribe to this channel. Just click on the subscribe button below. Click on the button and click on the notification bell. That way you get to know when a new episode of the Big 7 Stories is out. Thank you for subscribing. Now let's dive into this week's Big 7. We start our stories in Rivers State, where political tensions have escalated sharply as the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom, Wike, issued a stern warning to Governor Siminalayi Fubara, declaring that there would be no second chance for the governor, whom he has accused of lacking the capacity to provide effective leadership. Wike said that, any leader that is unable to maintain a functional working relationship with local governments, chairmen, members of the State House of Assembly, and other critical stakeholders cannot govern successfully. He said a whole lot. He's been taking a swipe at the governor, or several swipes at the governor, and he's also suggested that certain individuals who previously worked against the party's interests were attempting to reinsert themselves into Rivers politics without any tangible electoral value. Now, Nyesom, Wike and Governor Siminalayi Fubara, have had a lot of tussle during the week, and most surprising is the fact that Nyesom Wike, who is still a member of the PDP, has encountered resistance from within the ruling All Progressives Congress, because several APC governors have reportedly thrown their weight behind Governor Fubara, endorsing his second-term ambition, and also reiterating that once the governor of a state is an APC member, according to their own laws and constitution, he is the number one, APC member in the state. Now, there's been so much flying around because Nyesom Wike has been, anchoring his anger or his annoyance on the fact that Governor Fubara is not adhering to agreements. That's what he has been saying, that he's not, adhering to agreements, okay? And the National Secretary of the APC, Senator Ajibola Basiru, also has spoken about, the matter, saying that Nyesom Wike is not an APC member, and so he should not, he should stay out of River State politics. He should not disrespect Governor Fubara. But Wike is not backing down, because he has also warned the National Secretary of the APC to stay out of, River State's politics. And that's not all. That's really not all, because towards the end of the week, the River State House of Assembly initiated impeachment proceedings against Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy. They cited allegations of gross misconduct. They relied on Section 188 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, accusing the governor of failing to present a budget, spending state funds without legislative approval, withholding statutory allocations and salaries due to the Assembly and its agencies, bypassing legislative screening of appointments, and demolishing the Assembly complex. And many have come out to say, oh, this impeachment move is obviously being influenced by the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike. But the Assembly has said and reiterated that it's not about Nyesom Wike, because the Assembly spokesperson, Enemi George, spoke on national television, and he insisted that the lawmakers are acting strictly within the provisions of the Constitution, and he warned people against mixing politics with constitutional, responsibilities. The whole country is watching, because remember what happened a while ago when River State was paused. I say paused because there was a state of emergency for 6 months. And many have said that it was politically motivated. We again watch to see what will happen. People in different quarters have been calling on the president to call the FCT minister, his minister, to order and tell him to stop cognizant into matters that concern River State, because you cannot go to a state and undermine the governor of the state. We're hearing, this is not certain yet, but we've heard also that President Tinubu has also called the FCT minister, and is trying to still settle whatever issues that they have. We hope that it will be settled and we can just go back to things being normal. On our second story on the Big Seven Stories, this week, a viral photo controversy involving President Bola Tinubu and Rwandan President Paul Kagame spread widespread online debates and clarification from the presidency this week. So there was this image circulating on social media showing the two leaders at a private lunch in Paris, France. But that image, as ordinary as it seemed, they were apparently having lunch, it generated significant attention after some people noticed a watermark from an AI tool called Grok, and it was visible on the lower right-hand corner of the picture. And so people started to speculate on social media as to whether the picture was even real or artificially generated. But the presidency did issue a statement on January 5th clarifying that the photograph is real and not AI generated. Now, according to the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Timotokpa Ajayi, he said the image was taken with a mobile phone during the actual meeting between President Tinubu and President Paul Kagame, and they used the AI Grok to, enhance the photo's quality, and they didn't use it to generate it from scratch. And people have said, we're very, we're very skeptic about this. You'd expect that at the abode of, or wherever it is they've taken pictures, that people around them would have good phones, and there would be no need to have to use any AI, app to enhance it. But in case you didn't know, the meeting between President Tinubu and Kagame took place on January 4th, 2026. And according to the statements that we got after the meeting, they discussed global affairs and strategies for advancing Africa's growth. The engagement also later included interactions with French President Emmanuel Macron, government officials are urging Nigerians to approach controversies like this with caution. They say that enhancing the photo quality with digital tools does not equate to creating false imagery. But the real question here is the question of excellence. Who are the president's social media handlers? And why was that not checked and double-checked before it was uploaded? Let's move on to our next story on the Big Seven Stories. This is a sort of good news for parents who have children in school. Now, over the past week, the federal government of Nigeria announced a comprehensive new education policy framework, which is aimed at reducing the cost of education for parents, enhancing learning quality, and standardizing schooling nationwide. So some of these reforms I'll, bring out to us. Now, the education minister and the Minister of State for Education both explained that the policy is intended to ease the growing financial burden on families while improving learning outcomes in primary and secondary schools. So one of major, feature is the introduction of a national standardized academic calendar, which aims to create uniformity in school resumption and school closing dates nationwide. So there will be, all this confusion about some schools, because I know we've had that in Lagos, for example, would hear that schools resumed a week before schools in Oyo State and Ogun State resumed, and all of that. And so now there's going to be uniformity. Also, reusable textbooks. Under this policy, the government is promoting the use of high-quality, durable textbooks designed to last between 4 and 6 years. So schools will now be prohibited from bundling disposable workbooks with textbooks. This is a common practice that forces parents to buy new learning materials each academic session. I remember when I was younger, and all our parents had to do was buy the notebooks, because our elder ones had already used the textbooks and they used it well, so it wasn't torn or anything, and then we would inherit it. And at those times you didn't have to write the first name of the child, you just write the surname so that you can pass it on to others. But now we see those who make or write these books, now ensuring that the textbook and the workbook are in the same book, so you have to buy because the children would have worked in it. So according to the ministers, they say that this new approach will allow families to reuse textbooks across multiple academic year and also share them among siblings. And of course, this will significantly reduce the recurring education expenses and also minimize waste. Also, the policy is also tightening the quality assurance and instructional material selection that will require that textbooks revisions reflect meaningful content improvements, not just cosmetic changes that will now compel parents to repeatedly purchase new editions. Also, another major reform is the rising cost of school graduation ceremonies. In these days, schools now start, some even do pre-nursery graduation, nursery graduation, junior primary graduation, senior primary graduation, junior secondary graduation, and senior secondary graduation. Now, under the new rules, official graduation ceremonies will only be permitted for students completing primary 6, JSS 3, that's the junior secondary school 3, and senior secondary school 3. They say that this move is designed to discourage the frequent fee-driven celebrations that place extra financial strains on parents. Moving on to our next story. Over the week, popular baby formula brand Nestlé launched a large-scale recall of specific batches of infant formula products. They say that they are concerned that these products may be contaminated with cereulide. It's a toxin produced by Bacillus cereus. It's a bacteria that can cause gastrointestinal illness, that can cause children to stool and vomit. Now, this recall has been described by Austrian health authorities as potentially the largest in Nestlé's history. It's affecting well-known infant nutrition brands including SMA, Beba, Nan, and Alfamino. So these products have been withdrawn as a precautionary measure in multiple countries across Europe, Africa, the Middle East, the Americas, and Asia. They've issued health warnings to at least 37 countries where consumers and parents are being urged to check the batch numbers on the formula tins and cartons and to stop using the affected products immediately. They said the recall is broad, but even though they haven't, gotten any confirmed cases of illnesses linked to the recalled batches that have been reported so far, they're just trying to be very, very careful. They say this contamination concern stems from a problem with an ingredient that was supplied to Nestlé's production chain. The toxin cereulide is heat stable. This means that it may withstand standard preparation methods such as boiling water added to the powdered formula, and this raises safety concerns if consumed. And as of now, regulatory updates are ongoing, with the agencies in various countries continuing to monitor the situation and advise caregivers on the next step. Moving on to our next story on the Big 7 stories. The Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, has threatened to resume a nationwide strike. This is even after a court injunction has halted the planned actions. So, the National Industrial Court in Abuja on Friday issued an interim order restraining the NARD and its members from embarking on any form of industrial action, including strikes, work stoppages, or protest activities. Don't forget that the NARD had said they were going to go on strike starting from January 12, 2026. Now, this injunction followed the motion that was filed by the federal government and the Attorney General of the Federation, who argued that the planned strike would disrupt essential health services nationwide. Now, the judge who heard this suit has said that this order for them not to go on strike will remain in force until the motion or notice is heard, and that date is set for January 21, 2026. The judge also said as well that they can then choose to dispute, any of the things that the judge has said. So they are also free. That's the NARD is free to come to court. But the NARD national leadership has said they don't care and they're going to proceed with the strike unless their National Executive Council decides otherwise. They've accused the government of failing to honor commitments that were made in a memorandum of understanding that followed previous negotiations and a temporary suspension of industrial action in November 2025. they've, emphasized several things that remain unsolved despite the MOU that was signed. They talked about the unpaid salary and allowance arrears, delays in promotion, unclear entry-level placements, stalled specialist allowances, and poor conditions. And they are saying that if the government does not act immediately to implement their agreed terms, they will withdraw their services indefinitely from midnight on January 12th. Moving on to our next story. Nigerian language and culture scored a major global milestone this week. This is because the Oxford English Dictionary has added several Nigerian words and expressions to its official lexicon. So if you're buying the latest edition of the Oxford English Dictionary, you're going to be seeing some of these words. The latest December 2025 Oxford English Dictionary update, which was published on the dictionary's official platform, introduced more than 500 new words, phrases, and meanings, alongside updates to over 1,000 existing entries. Among these are several words that have Nigerian origin and popular usage. Some of the notable words are words like abeg, biko, Ghana must go, amala, moi moi, mami market. Also, we have popular cultural terms like Afrobeat as well also added. We have, and this is the latest update. It's built on an earlier expansion that was released in January 2025, when the dictionary also had added Nigerian words like expressions rather, like Jakpa, Agbiru, Eba, 419, Abi. And this is just showing us how Nigerian, English and street slang are now reshaping the global English usage. And language experts have said that these additions represent more than just lexical changes. They reflect Nigeria's cultural imprint on global communication. And for many Nigerians, seeing familiar words like abeg and biko in the Oxford English Dictionary is a sign that local speech patterns have transcended borders, moving from everyday interactions to respected entries in the world's leading dictionary of English. And on our last story, before I go to sports, so this is more than seven, but I'll give you a quick update on the AFCON, how it's going on Nigeria's end. But on our last story, which takes us to Iran, Iranian authorities have escalated a nationwide crackdown on mass protests, issuing warnings that some participants could face the death penalty, even as internet access has been cut off and the demonstrations are still continuing all across the country. Now, according to reports from major international outlets, the Iranian government has responded to persistent anti-government demonstrations, which began in late December amidst growing economic distress and public discontent. Now, the authorities have blocked internet access nationwide in an effort to restrict communication and limit the flow of information about the events on ground. As a matter of fact, the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who spoke on state media, warned that the Islamic Republic would not tolerate what he described as vandalism or actions by mercenaries for foreign powers. He, in other words, accused the US President Donald Trump. It's just showing us one thing, because from one country to another, youths have stood up to protest. And it's showing us that this current generation will not stand for bad behavior from the political class. And a quick drop to sports. The Nigerian Super Eagles are gearing up for a crucial AFCON match, a quarterfinal clash with Algeria, as they're aiming to book their place into the tournament semi-finals. This encounter is one of the most anticipated matches of the competition, and it's set to take place at the Grand Stade de Marrakesh in Morocco today, with the kickoff scheduled for 5 p.m. West African time. We hope that the Super Eagles of Nigeria will do very well, barring any of the problems that have happened over the week. But this is how far we can take it on the Big 7 Stories. This just wraps it up for this week. And remember that the news doesn't always wait, and so you also shouldn't. You need to stay curious, stay informed, and keep questioning. I am Bolanle Odueku Ayola. I'll be back next week with another countdown of the stories that everyone is talking about. Until then, keep watching, keep learning, and keep ahead of the news.